one of the fun things that I said to our professor was that I love hearing activists in their own voice. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I had her for a previous course, and we had to do something similar. And I told her I felt like I was doing a disservice to some of the powerful stories that I heard because I didn't have the opportunity, the world didn't have the opportunity to hear it in their own voice. And
Wow.
yeah, so that's why, when we had the opportunity to do this assignment, I was like, oh, I am definitely recording everybody. Like, I just want to
Yeah.
hear everyone, and I really feel like the world, it just needs to be out there so that
Mm-hmm.
always, if someone has a question about it, you have the autonomy to share who you are in your own voice, and you can send them a link, and it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be written out in a long email. So super
Yeah.
thankful for you, Carla, for hanging out with.
Well, sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. Okay.
So that's the difference between you recording this for a podcast, because I have no decorum. Like, I'm just feeling like we're conversational. So sorry. Oops. Hope you can edit.
You'll be fine. So, Carla, tell me about yourself, and we'll, just share who we are in this one-on-one.
Okay. Well, I'm Carla Thomas, and I came to this master's graduate program through just basically my desire to put some context to what the things and the passions that I have towards social justice. I'm not currently, I wouldn't say that I'm in any type of community work right now, or how other people are actually in different movements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I've done volunteer work. I support causes in my community, but I'm not really into any one
One
particular
thing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And but I signed up for this particular master's degree program because I was in human services. I've worked for a nonprofit, and so I like that sort of thing. But my experiences there were just not good at all. And I decided I want to get some education, and I want to get some knowledge behind all this passionate work that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I can kind of go into this again in a position of leadership, or
Mm-hmm.
at least, not the entry level positions, but I want to be able to make a difference. And
Yeah.
um, I started in a human services degree at Walden because I did no research,
Mm-hmm.
and touched base with a professor here in my hometown, and she said, you can really get a degree in social justice. And then I started researching, and that's how I got to Prescott.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So we're kind of the same. I want you kind of to unpack some of the things that maybe, were a struggle in that human services aspect. My undergrad is also in human services. Um,
Mm,
and I found Prescott the same way. I researched at that time graduate programs in social justice. I
yeah.
researched HBCUs that had social justice as a graduate degree and could not find any. I found two. One was Prescott and one was another institution. And Prescott called me back immediately and kept calling.
Oh,
so,
wow.
so I tell people all the time, I'm here. You got to have a great admissions team because I am a huge supporter of Prescott, but I never would have been here if it wasn't for the diligence of that administration.
Yeah.
But yeah, like tell me a little bit about, because I worked in human services too, girl. Like that's
Hmm.
my thing. But what were some of the things maybe that you ran into that made you really understand that you needed to, maybe go back and get some institutional learning about what you already have a passion for? What are some of the things that you kind of ran into?
So my background is an administrative professional. I've done that my whole life. And executive assistant, receptionist, any capacity. I've did some leasing, but that's primarily it. But I found this particular position as a development coordinator just kind of came to me. And so I was able to transfer my skills, and I went in this position strong. Like, I enjoyed it. My transferable skills from admin, but in addition to that, fundraising, just donor donor relationships, it came natural. What I found was that nonprofits, they lack the structure that the accountability that your corporate workplaces have. And what I found was there was no accountability, and I found that the leadership was weak. I found that the case managers were a little overworked, and me, with my justice attitude, I need justice in everything I see and do, right? Yeah. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's put some systems and processes in place to kind of get this. But you know what? Where I was at, the position I was in, I could make no difference. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I ran into. And I also found out.
Powerful. That's so powerful. That sentence you said is like, I looked up and I realized the position I was in, I could make no difference. That is so powerful. How often do we stop and realize like, okay, wait, I can do no good right where I am right here. What do I need to do to shift that so that I can do some type of...
And there you go. And that's it. Because I do believe you can make some differences sometimes bottom up, but you have to kind of know. And I knew in that situation, okay. And so wait, girl, then they fire me because I hit the ground running, and it was my boss who was intimidated by, my actions and everything. And it didn't matter what I did. She had no issue with me. She didn't know how to use my strengths, you know what I mean? And who I was. So they ended up, her and another girl conspired to have me fired, but it was all good because that is what led me to pursue higher education in this area and to really get to where I belong, because social justice and community organizing is truly my passion and my piece. That's the piece to my puzzle.
I love that
was missing. So
I love that. So I love how even the bad things turn around for good. So I love that for sure. How do you yourself, how do you define racial justice? What do you think of when you think of that term?
Racial justice to me is equality, is the opposite of racial injustice. So it's inclusion. It's the people who are causing the injustices learning and figuring out what they're doing so they can stop the injustices. It's allowing opportunities, equal opportunities for people of color without them having to fight for it.
Yeah.
How do you define it?
Every time I think of racial justice, I think of, in a perfect world, I think of equity. I think where we think about how people have been harmed because of what they look like, what their race is, and that we atone for that together. That we say, you know what? For 400 years, this group of people was intentionally oppressed. I mean, literally laws made to keep this demographic oppressed. We should probably send them to school for free. Like,
right.
There are higher ed institutions that were built on their ancestors' backs who could not even attend there. We should probably give them some land. That to me is like really justice. It's not just, I'm sorry with words. One thing I teach my children is you can't harm someone with words, or my kids, they fight all the time. So they'll like hit each other. You can't just say you're sorry. You have to make a complete shift in your attitude and change. And what comes with that is, not only am I sorry, but next time I'll let you go through the door first, or I'm going to here's my favorite piece of candy. That's how you really say sorry, when you give up something that you have and something that means to you to ensure that other group has it. So when I think of racial justice, I'm thinking of free school. I'm thinking about land. I'm thinking about Black people shouldn't pay taxes. Like, it's the whole thing that my mindset kind of gets into.
That is so true. See, you've expanded my vision and idea of that, because it's still going on today.
It's still going on.
And you know, yeah, with us being the only race who hasn't gotten any type of reparations or anything like that, and it's still going on today. Yeah, you know what? You want to say you're sorry? Can you pay my tuition? Can you?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the truth is, this country owes me and my ancestors millions of dollars if it would have been invested. And so the least you could do is give me a free house and give me free education. That's the least that you could do. So, you know.
Yeah. Who would you say is responsible for ending racism?
I don't think racism has ended. So I think as we work to, honestly, I think, you know, in real life, I stay angry with people when they don't acknowledge that I have a right to be angry. And so for me, you know, even like my husband and I, we, you know, we've been married for, you know, 6 years. And so one thing we were talking about this year when we celebrated our anniversary was acknowledging that, you know, sometimes one of us will do something that is 1,000% authentically us, but it may be harmful to the other person, and having to adjust that so that that person is not intentionally, it doesn't seem like that person is intentionally being harmed. So when I think about how we end racism, I think it is first acknowledging with tangible things that this actually did happen. Understanding that slavery is not Black history, that it is white history. It is a part of their history that they need to come to grips with. I think that we shouldn't have to tell this. We as Black Americans should not have to tell the story of slavery. That's not our history. That's, you know, and I want you to acknowledge that. And then I think as we move from that space, then we have the opportunity to walk together. You ever had a friend that never told you that they were sorry and you knew they did you wrong? Yeah. What happens is you don't want to be their friend anymore.
Right.
In order for us to really begin to walk like the melting pot that we want America to be, somebody has to say that they're sorry. You alluded to earlier, other, you know, everybody else has gotten an apology or money or something.
Yeah.
Has to say they're sorry in a tangible way. And then we move on from there. So I think that that's the responsibility would be on all of us to recognize, like, hey, a lot of our ancestors made a lot of mistakes. We are moving on. Thank you for my free education, and thank you for my and we're moving on. You know, we're going on.
See, I think honestly, because I've asked this question and I've gotten a myriad of answers from people, you know, that I've done my community one-on-ones. I think, quite honestly, that racism started with white people, so white people need to end it.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Because how do we? I don't feel there's anything that we can do to stop it. What am I gonna do?
Yeah,
and
you gotta be empowered to do it. I mean, you gotta really hold the bulk of the power to do it. The truth, racism is so heavily connected to capitalism and wealth. We've been learning in our class just about like that balance of power and organization. It really is about that. So no, I don't disagree with your thought.
Yeah,
I disagree at all. I like how you put that together. And even as we're thinking through it, you know, has there been a time where you've maybe experienced injustice? And I kind of feel like you might have just alluded to it, but has there been a time where you've experienced injustice that really like sticks out to you?
So injustices, it would be, you know, me being unjustly fired, As it pertains to race, I can't think of anything directly.
Mhm.
You know, I'm one of those people, you know, there's been microaggressions that I've experienced. There's been certain um situations like that, but there are no injustices um overtly that I can truly think of, aside from, like I said, this recent experience of me being fired. You
Mhm.
know, nothing that comes to now. When we stop this, and I'm laying down sleeping tonight,
Yeah,
I
you
might
it's
think
gonna
of.
come to you. It's gonna come to you then.
Yeah. What about you?
Man, there's always, I mean, injustice is an ugly space. I mean, there's injustices with me being, I work in like the faith and justice sector, and I can't tell you how many times I have been asked, not to preach in a certain place in the church, because only men should be there.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell you how many times Black men who look like me, have alluded that I cannot be called to spread the gospel because I have a different genitalia than they do.
Wow.
So there's so many injustices in every space, in every demographic, amongst every person. And so yeah, it's a tiring work, but we work and we try to push and make a difference, just like you said.
Mhm.
I know, as we kind of think through doing this work and trudging through this work, sometimes we forget about our family, how our jobs, our community, how they really impact us. But how would you say that your family or your work or community impacts your work? Does it impact your work?
Family, aside from wanting just to make a better space for them, but my community does, because I see a lot going on in my community. You know, Toledo is kind of, we're a close-knit community in some regards, but we're still so segmented and segregated. My first husband was in the military, and we would go away and we lived different places. We've even lived out of the country. And when we would come back, we would notice, we literally could feel the atmosphere of separation. Like, it's more racially segregated or prejudice. And I don't know, it could be in contrast to a military community that's very diverse, but you could just feel the separation. And so there are so many subtle divisions in this city. And I mean, you're in Cincinnati, they're a little bit bigger and a little bit more, what is the word? Is it metropolitan? You know, they have a little bit more going
Yeah,
on.
a little more.
But here, oh my gosh. So I see things that I want to address, and I see where I could make a big difference. So I would say community more than anything. That's how they affect my social justice work, is just by giving me things to want to work toward changing, you know.
No, I love that. I love
What
that.
about you?
Man, for first I would say my family. And I would really say probably the largest influencers, because I understand that in order for their next 20 years to be better than my last years have been, I have to put in real work now. So I have, this summer I made a complete career change, and went into the school, the education sector. And it's been, I didn't want to do it. It wasn't, I love teaching, but I felt like I was doing what I was called to do, working as a full-time pastor, really serving people. But really got to the point where I recognized, that it was like, hey, if you're gonna do work, like you said, earlier, which is why that thought really hit me, it really confirmed for me, was like, I'm doing good work right here, but I could be doing great work out there. And
Yeah.
so yeah, wanting to see that for our families, for our communities, it kind of encompasses all of that.
Yeah.
So it's always a good time. And I feel like Prescott is so good about getting you to ask those hard questions to yourself, where you
Yeah.
start rethinking, like, wait a minute, I was reading one of our assignments for this week, and it was talking about the word decolonization, and like how we have used that. I personally said that in concerning education, and really hearing from First Nations people to say, hey, decolonize actually is a word for us, and here's why. It was like amazing.
Yeah, it is though. It truly is.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from the point of view and perspective of Native Americans, and you know what, Sunny, honestly, until I started taking these courses,
Mm-hmm.
being Black people, we look at everything from our perspective,
Oh
and
yeah.
quite honestly, is number one. Like that's our number one plight. But man, my other class, radical pedagogy of the or
Practice.
in prax.
Yeah.
Oh, it made me, and it was based on indigenous culture.
Yeah.
Learned so much, and just how, my gosh, they had schools,
Yeah.
that, so it does help you. When you think of decolonization, yes, you think of it in those terms, but we definitely have to be decolonized as well. But at least it helps you see that ours is not the only plight,
Absolutely.
you know. But Sunny, now you asked me at the beginning what got me into this. I don't know if you answered that question.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Mhm.
Honestly, um, I was always really influenced. I remember being maybe like 16, 17 years old, and I was in a multicultural lit class in high school. And I remember doing a presentation on the Black Panthers. And I remember reading about how the what we call Head Start today, how that was a program that the Black Panthers actually begun. And I had served in Head Start, I had been in Head Start, and I had never heard that this militant, aggressive group, because I went to, predominantly white schools. So this was a, aggressive,
Yeah.
violent group, that they were so concerned about anybody could come to these, that they would serve literally anyone
Mm-hmm.
of any community, as long as they were supportive of the Black community, and that they created these programs to feed and educate the next generation. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember, like, it just hitting me like, wait a minute, these this violent group that run around with guns shooting everybody,
Yep.
like.
Yep.
And it was like, it just started kind of planted that seed in me. And then, as I went on, and I had some incidents in college, the first go around, when I first went to college. And it took me some years. I was older, I was definitely, past 30, but I always was really proud of just being who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody knows, I introduce myself and I say, hey, I'm Sunny Brown. I am Black and I am brilliant. Like, that's my intro. Um,
Uh-huh.
and as I, continue to just serve and really get engaged about, as you said, I was working in human services, working in nonprofit, and I saw so many Black and brown people doing the work with the young people, being amazing, being the ones that were used for social media and content, and they were never in the C-suite. We were always part-time, or leads, or directors, or associates, or senior program directors, or even execs, but they never let us get to the C-suite.
What
And
is the C-suite?
that is that corporate, that top notch of, that's the president and the vice president of the company. When I looked at those C-suites, they were all white people. And I realized so many Black and brown people are making the money of these organizations. And you guys are making the decisions about where the money goes. Y'all not even down here.
Yeah.
Y'all using us for our ideas. You want to see us do camp. You want to see us do songs. You want to see jump around and be the entertainment. You call us when you need fundraisers. You bring our kids out because they're going to present well. And none of them start from the C-suite. And I got tired of it. And then after that, George Floyd happened. And then it was like an explosion in my mind. And that's when when Mr. Floyd was murdered, that was when I stopped policing my voice. That was when I stopped writing in a manner that didn't actually represent me. I'm educated. I'm on the dean's list. I love to learn. And you're going to get all of these Black colloquialisms. And I'm gonna give it to you. I'm
and
like,
there you go.
This is what it's gonna be. And so that's how that's been like my matriculation of social work and social justice work. And so I love our institution. I love Prescott because it is an entity that will show me, just like radical pedagogy is praxis. Learning about the Aztecs and the way they have educated literally blew my mind.
That right there. So I had a one-to-one this week, and the girl is an educator, and she hasn't taken that class, and she's toward the end of her, and I think she has maybe one or two left. I said, and what she wants to do is so admirable. She wants to teach outdoor education in urban communities. And I said, you have to take radical pedagogy. You know what I mean? Because as an educator, it will equip you beyond, it will just truly open up your mind, especially if you want to teach urban kids. You truly want to understand. And she was, just through my explanation, she was really excited about it. But that class, it shifted me.
Yeah. It shifted me. Like
it did. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. And so you're an educator though, so you can apply so much of that. Man, that class pushed me into education. Oh, it did.
Yes. I just started. This is my first year teaching.
Okay, so question. What program are you in?
I'm in the social justice.
Oh, you are in the social. Okay, because a lot of the people are in different programs. Yeah. So wow, you're going to be a force. Yeah. You're going to be a force. But that, I feel, even with what I'm doing now, like I'm doing an intern with a grassroots organization here in our community. And fortunately, this lady I know, she's the executive director. So I'm really getting this hands-on practical, being able to apply this real time. But I can see where I can apply the principles and the frameworks of that radical pedagogy in praxis class, because I'm like, we can talk and we can organize, but if our people don't understand and get reconnected to their value and the rehumanize, like it spoke about, and them understanding that, okay, you kind of got to be the one, we can truly reconnect you back to your power, to where you're the one freeing yourself. I mean, that's just dynamic to me.
I love it.
And that's another reason I love Prescott, because they practice with, the professors. It's real experience, that they're
we're learning from community organizers. We're learning from activists. We're learning from outdoor educationalists. We're learning from, like, I'm not taking any classes from people. Every time I read those bios, I'm like, man, I gotta get
okay. So me being, I had my undergrad is in interdisciplinary. And like I said though, but when, Dr. Ruth, Dr. April Ruth, she said in one of our video classes, she said, you guys, you all come here with a level of expertise. Mm-hmm. You're coming here already equipped with a lot of this knowledge. And, I thought, man, that is kind of true. Now we're just getting the context.
Yeah. I love Dr. April Ruth. She said something the first time I met her. The first video, virtual meeting I ever got on with her. Mm-hmm. And she's talking to all of us, and she said, listen up. I don't want you guys to start using all these big words and using these SAT words and trying to just, out academic one another. We are here to learn. And I was like, yeah.
Like, thank you. You know what? Well, listen, now that we're confessing, because when honestly,
the pressure, like that grad school pressure, it makes you think, oh my God, I have to be do. Like, let me tell you, Dr. April Ruth is brilliant. Like,
yes.
Professor Syrian, brilliant. Like, yes. They are just beyond. And so, but they can break down their expertise so that a third grader can understand
it. That's what I'm appreciating, because
and that's what I'm like.
Yeah. Because when I read some of these discussions, right, I'm like, okay. And guess what, Sonny? I literally had to take a step back, and I thought, I am in class to learn. Mm-hmm. So when I'm answering these discussion questions, I'm not going to be trying to sound scholarly and intellect. Now, I definitely want to have some, what is it?
Yeah.
The AP, whatever.
It's higher ed. It's higher ed, but I'm going to ask the question. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But it has to be based on who I am, how I approach it, and what I know, and what I'm interpreting it as. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel safe enough in that space. But sometimes I did kind of get a little intimidated, because I'm like, okay.
It makes you. But I appreciate even these one-on-ones and getting to talk to people who are in different areas of their different seasons of their activism.
Yes.
It allows us to be able to say, like, oh, like, this does make sense in every aspect, and you're right. You said it. You were like, you feel safe enough to say, hey, I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Somebody tell me what does that exactly mean? And I have yet to be in a class where anybody laughed or cackled. Like, they just answer. Like, it's not even. It's higher education. Like, even our classmates will educate us.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. I'm so thankful that I got to talk to you tonight. Bro.
I know. I am too. And I just wish, like, I kind of want to put in there in one of our chats or the email chain or something. Yeah. If anybody wants to connect and talk,
Well, we'll definitely be doing that, especially, just watching you continue to develop and do all the wonderful things that we know you're going to do.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to just be here and be a resource for you and to let everybody hear your story. So thank you, Miss Carla, for coming.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you as well, Sunny. It was wonderful chatting.
Yes. Well, listen, of course, my podcast is called The Sunny Side View. So always we like to thank everybody for coming and just taking a moment to look at the sunny side of everything. So I appreciate you for hanging out with us tonight.
My name is Sunday Joy, and thank you for listening to my mom's podcast.